Thank you all for coming in. I wanted to start this talk with some polls. Who doesn't like them? Anyways, please go to @Catapulta and answer the questions. As you do that, I will go over to the next slide. I'll tell you something. I own an Instagram account, which I mainly use for my girlfriends. Since I'm a frustrated influencer, I tend to do some dynamics in which I ask my followers some questions. They can go through anything, from general knowledge to awkward questions. However, I noticed something funny about the answers to my polls. There tended to be more answers to my questions when they were involving my followers, when the questions were about themselves. I'm not making you answer the polls because I just want to know what your favorite color is, or what your best friend's favorite color is. It goes beyond that. When you're asked that question, any question that has to do with you, you will get excited because someone wants to know a fact that has to do with you. But what happens when I ask you something about myself or anyone else? Your reaction won't be the same. You will have to think about someone else that is not you and probably try to answer, but that will not be your main priority. Here are some evidences that back up my my theory. In my Instagram account with which I own, I tend to ask my followers questions. And whenever I ask them something that has to do with them, which in this case would be, would you want me to send over to your house some potato chips or something that you like? The answers tend to be higher. As you can see, there were 51 answers to my question in that case. But as I tended to change the questions, I saw the difference. Whenever I asked my followers something that I wanted to know for, because I wanted to buy a bathing suit, the answers tend to be lower. In this case, I got 38 answers to my question, which is still a lot, but the number was lower. And then I asked for the quality of these bathing suits. And I even got less answers than the other question. I got only 12 answers. So what do we see here? It is clear that people are more likely to answer the questions that have to do with them, that make them the center of the topic. But why? Pretty simple. We are a selfish species. And what does that mean? That means that we're obsessively concerned with the well-being and pleasure that only and only involves us. We're all selfish, and we've buried ourselves in our own small world. Sometimes it is necessary to pop the perfectly shaped bubble we live in and become aware of reality. For 9 whole years of my life, I asked for a younger brother until my wish was granted. I was a little girl back then, and I didn't care about many features my brother had. For example, the fact that he didn't speak, walk, or go to the bathroom properly. Those were my brother's challenges, and I couldn't understand them until I was 14. I remember the day I learned about my brother's life condition. He had autism. I was shocked. Throughout my whole life, I was never forced to think about anyone else but myself. I didn't have to be tolerant with people who were different to what I thought was normal. And as I got to know him, I realized that we weren't as different as I thought autistic people were. They just have different way of processing things, of feeling and reacting to stimuli. Nevertheless, they're still humans, and we still share that race with them. However, not everybody saw my brother the way I did. It was still hard to put up with people that stared at him as if he was ill with some contagious disease, or to listen to children say that they didn't want to play with my brother because that kid is weird. I still didn't blame the world for not having the tolerance that I had with my brother. Like I said, we all live in our perfect, self-centered bubble. A few months later, in my former school, as part of our social service, we organized a charity event for Christmas with the Down Syndrome Association. We had a lovely lunch with them, and as a gratefulness gesture, they decided to show us a play. That play had such an impact in my life that I still remember it to this day as if it happened yesterday. The actors were dressed in geometrical figures. Some of them were dressed as triangles and others as circles. Most of them were circles, and only a couple people were dressed as triangles. During the play, the circles feared the triangles because they were different from them. They lived in a circular planet, inside a circular city, and among circular people. They weren't taught to respect other figures, and it wasn't their fault. That was just the way they were raised. They feared the triangles since they didn't know them. And as the play goes by, the circles realized that the only thing dividing them and the triangles was their shape. They were all geometrical figures at the end of the day, and their roots went back to the same place. I think something similar happens to us and the people with mental disabilities. We fear them because we don't know them, and we won't even take the shot to do it. We don't want to pop our bubble, and we won't do it because we don't have the need to. Inside this bubble, we can be selfish, we don't have to be tolerant, and we don't have to face our fears. So what would happen if we stopped thinking about the oneself for a minute? What if we tried our best not to show how uncomfortable we are to be with people we're not used to be around with? Around 15% of the world's population have mental disabilities. That equals 1 billion people, 1 billion human beings that also feel and process emotions. So at the end of the day, this talk, as the name itself says it, it's not a lecture. I'm not asking you to create a foundation to help the mentally disabled population after you leave here. I want my words to penetrate somewhere in your mind where you won't forget what I said. I want you to look at your family, at your parents or your siblings, and imagine how would your life be like if any of them had a mental disability. Would you try to understand them? Would you want other people to try as well? As Mahatma Gandhi once said, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. Even if it's just one of the individuals present here that is moved by what I've said, I'll know I did my job as an agent of change. I invite you all to do the same. I invite you to pop your bubble and to not stand idly by. This world can be as good as we allow it to be. Let's give it a chance. Let's give us a chance. Don't we all deserve it? Thank you.